This is a production of WKNO Memphis. Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
A look at the organizations helping the needy during the holidays tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes, publisher of the Memphis Daily News. Thanks for joining us. We're joined tonight by a number of organizations, representative from organizations working to help the needy during the holidays. Sally Jones-Hines from MIFA, thank you for being here. Barbara Tillery from the Salvation Army, thanks for being here. Thank you. And Estella Mayhew Greer from Mid-South Food Bank, thanks for being here. Also Bill Dries from the Memphis Daily News. Let's start with just and I'll go around the table here. I mean, give me some sense, whether it's numbers or just a sense of the scope of the need during the holidays and the scope of the problem. And we'll start with you.
Well, Mid-South Food Bank serves 31 counties, and in those 31 counties there are 416,000 people who face food insecurity on any given day. So that's year-round. But at the holidays, our partner agencies that we work with want to make sure that they're providing a little bit more food than they normally do. And with the recent cuts in SNAP benefits, we're seeing more people.
More people. We'll come back to some of those cuts, but let me get just a sense for MIFA and your guys' sort of definition of the challenges or the scope of the challenges.
MIFA, the Metropolitan Interfaith Association, supports the independence of vulnerable seniors and families in crisis. Two programs that I particularly think of at this time of year are Meals on Wheels, MIFA's Meals on Wheels. As Estella just mentioned, food insecurity in this part of the country is very great. Tennessee ranks 5th in the nation in terms of senior food insecurity, so that's a particular need. And the other program at MIFA that I think of at this time of year is our Emergency Services Program, which offers rent, mortgage, and utility assistance to families who've experienced a crisis like a layoff or a medical emergency. And the need in that program, we've seen a 4% increase in financial requests this year. So at the holidays, that need is particularly urgent, I think.
Barbara, for you all, I mean, during the holidays, I think everyone sees the folks ringing the bells out in front of stores and so on, but your sense of the scope of the challenges that you face?
Well, primarily the Salvation Army runs shelters for the homeless. However, for the last 27 years, we have provided toys, gifts for seniors and angels children who are in need of gifts at Christmas time. And so over the last 4 to 5 years, we've seen a decrease in the income of families. We've had a large upturn in those families who are in need at Christmas time, seniors who want Christmas baskets, who want gifts for themselves or need gifts for themselves, but especially for the children. Families who have lost their jobs, families who have been evicted, who can't do anything for their families are calling the Salvation Army for our Angel Tree program.
All right, Bill.
I've seen Christmas in a shelter before, and I think all of your agencies have probably deal with people year-round, but the holidays in particular, especially with a family, a mother and son, or a father and a daughter, it seems as if the needs on that front, especially with children, are a bit different during the holidays. Agree or disagree?
I agree. We have so many telephone calls that come in, and it's almost like a desperate call. My children won't have anything for Christmas. How can I face them on Christmas morning and they don't have anything? They didn't get anything last year. Can you help me? And it touches your heart, because children, that's what Christmas is about. You want to wake up on Christmas morning and you want to have something up under the Christmas tree. But for many families here in Memphis, that won't be the case.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that people don't think about is that the children who receive free or reduced lunches at school during the holidays when school is out, they're missing meals. And so that's why food is so important during this time. We think about it during the summertime that school is out, so we need to feed the children. But people don't think about during the holidays when children are out of school, they're missing that free breakfast and free lunch that they get at school. So that's one of the reasons that our 200 partner agencies want to make sure that they have enough food in the home.
Mm-hmm. And Sally, what do you see as the needs that arise specifically during this season?
Well, and I don't know that the needs are specific to the season, but I think certainly they are exacerbated, and I think that the stress level is higher. We're seeing a different kind of person or family sometimes come into emergency services. A woman came a week or two ago, and she had been laid off from a job, a professional job, at last January. She had saved. She had done everything right. She told the caseworker, I did everything right. She had 3 children, but she hadn't been able to find another job. And I think you layer the stress of the holidays on top of that, and you know, families are feeling that especially.
The degree to which you paint that picture of this person who professional kids worked, laid off, I mean, what are some of the biggest misperceptions you think people have about the folks you are helping?
Well, when you consider that 30 to 40% of the people who receive food from our partner agencies do not qualify for any government assistance because they're working. They're making slightly too much money to qualify for SNAP benefits or for the free lunch program, but they need help because these are people who probably had 2 household incomes. They're down to 1 or maybe half of that income because a lot of people who were working full-time are now working part-time, may have 2 part-time jobs to make ends meet. And when you're juggling, oftentimes when you've got all these balls up in the air, whether it's rent and utilities, or particularly during the holidays, you're thinking about the children need to have something under the tree, then sometimes that food is the thing that gets tossed to the side. That's the ball that gets dropped. When it gets cold, you're worried about paying utilities, or you've got to have gas to get to work. And someone made the comment to me the other day that, well, I've seen people with nice cars getting food. That may be all they have. And with the transportation system that we have in the Mid-South, that's the only way a lot of people have to get to and from work. So gas and a vehicle is not an option.
And for you, I mean, talking about the homeless, you talked about homeless shelters. You know, the working homeless. I mean, it's something. You know, again, there's this probably really kind of ugly stereotype of a homeless person being, you know, shiftless and so on. But tell us about some of the folks you see.
That certainly is not the case. Yeah. Yes, traditionally when we think about the homeless, we think about that man on the street. We think about that alcoholic. But what you have now, these are women and children that are homeless. And more than 50% of those that are homeless are children. Today, we have about 63 children in our shelter right now. And many of them have been evicted because they aren't able to pay the rent. We have mothers at work every day, but the income is not sufficient enough for them to pay their rent and pay the utility bill and keep the kids fed. And so it's a whole different ball game now. And I was thinking about what you said, Estella. Yes, people drive up in cars. Years ago when we started doing our Angel Tree program, you only thought about those people who were receiving assistance from the government who would need Christmas. And so now, when we have our distribution, the cars that drive up on that lot are not raggedy cars. They're up-to-date cars. And you have to know that these are people who have worked in the past, and that may be all that they have. Your car can be your home. And so you fight to hold on to that transportation so you can get to work, and maybe so you and your children can sleep in it at night.
Yeah. Bill.
Sally, what do you have an idea for the duration that people are in this dilemma? And I would imagine that this dilemma is one that's transitional. The nature of the problem would seem to change over time.
Well, and as I mentioned, we are seeing more people who never imagined that they would be at MIFA asking for assistance. But, you know, as companies reduce workforce, that's what we're seeing. As I mentioned, we're seeing a 4% increase this year. We have about 15,000 requests for financial assistance that come to families who come to emergency services every year. And we're able to assist about 5,000 of those with financial assistance. So you can see there's a greater need than we are able to fulfill ourselves. But all of our organizations work so closely together, and MIFA serves as the central intake for families who are facing homelessness. So we know when to contact the Salvation Army, we know when to contact Agape. We also give out food vouchers to the food banks that Estella is filling. So there's really a nice network, and I think that the public needs to know that too. I think we often hear, oh, there's a duplication of services, or how has all this worked out? But we really do work very well together.
And really, Sally, with what you all do at the Central Intake and for homeless prevention, many of those families that could lose their homes, you all are able to help them keep them through your homeless prevention program, paying the rent to keep them in that house. Because once the rent is not paid, then they're homeless. And there are just so many beds in this city for homeless individuals and for families. And so we rely on the agencies that we work with, the Food Bank and MIFA and all of the other agencies. It takes that collaborative to help these families.
It's much better to try to keep a family in their home
Yes, it
than
is.
ever losing it.
Yeah, because I was going to say, if someone, I guess I'll go to you, if someone, a family or individual is homeless, how do you get them out of that situation? I mean, in how long is a person, do they remain homeless? I mean, do you have those kind of statistics, or what is the dynamic that breaks the homelessness, or are they stuck there for a very long time?
Well, in our shelters, in our emergency shelters, we can keep them up to 90 days, 3 months. For many, that's not enough time. It just simply is not enough time, because the families that we get in our shelters are those families who have absolutely no income other than maybe Families First $142 a month in food stamps. And so without income, without earned income, and having moved over a period of time, because some families you have been habitually homeless. 4 and 5 years at a time, just moving from family to family, friend to friend. And so they have lost everything that they have. By the time they make it to us, we've got to start at ground zero. And that takes a lot. I mean, even down to getting them identification so that they can begin the process of trying to work themselves into the system. And so our goal is always to help provide that stability for them. If they're with us long enough, to help them obtain all of the necessary information that they need to obtain services, hopefully to help them find housing, permanent housing, even if it's in subsidized housing, to help them to undergird themselves so that they can move out, because once you're homeless, you cannot live in a shelter. We have got to help you find somewhere to go. We have families that are able to do that in 3 months. We have families that may not be able to do it for 5 or 6 months.
Yeah, and for the food bank, I mean, are people? Is it a transition for them, or does it become something that is a permanent part of supplementing their food?
When food banking started, it was to meet emergency needs. We've now become a supplement. And we understand that. And with our understanding that we're doing this, we focus on the type of products that we're distributing, because we understand that hunger is a health issue, not just, and homelessness is a health issue. People don't realize that if you're not eating properly, it creates other things. With our seniors, if they're not eating properly, then it impacts their health. So we understand that we're supplementing now. And we're making sure that what we provide is nutritious food. So we're purchasing more food than we ever have before, because the donations from the food industry just are not there. And when we purchase, we're looking at the sodium content, we're looking at the sugar, making sure that when we get those canned fruits, that they're in their own juice rather than syrup. Those little things that we look at to make sure that we're providing more nutritious product. We're purchasing more fresh produce to provide to seniors and children than we ever have before. We doubled the amount of produce that we've distributed so far this year over what we did last year.
And what I should have probably said this earlier, but we don't usually do this on the show, but certainly for this show we will. What can people do to help? You know, people listening. I mean, is it money? Is it time? Is it all of the above?
It's all of the above. As nonprofit organizations, we rely on volunteers to come in and help us with what we do daily, whether it's delivering meals or tutoring children in a shelter or helping us sort and pack food to get it out. The funds are definitely important to us because that's what we rely on to house the homeless, to provide utilities, or to purchase that food that we need. So it's all of the above. And more important, the educational piece. It's important that the public educate others about homelessness, about food insecurity, and advocate on behalf of those people who feel like they don't have a voice.
And Sally, for MIFA, I mean, you how can people help?
The same thing. And volunteers and funds, all of that. Utility Assistance +1 is a very easy way for anybody who has MLGW utilities to help with that program. I do want to mention the volunteers and seniors. We've talked a lot about families, but you know, traditionally at the holidays you think about sharing a family meal, and our homebound seniors, many of them don't have that opportunity. And of course it takes volunteers to deliver those meals for us. We couldn't deliver the number of meals if we had to pay drivers, but particularly at the holidays, to take the time to come to MIFA and deliver a meals route and spend some time with a senior who may not see anyone else that day except the volunteer who delivers that meal. That's a really special thing, and that added volunteer, that's just a priceless value added.
And describe, for people who aren't familiar, the MLG +1 program. Describe that.
It's on your bill. It's a very easy way. You can add $1 to your bill every month, and that money comes directly to MIFA, and then we are able to help. It gives us a nice donation of money level throughout the year that we're able to help families with utilities.
And Barbara, again, how can people help your organization?
The same way, volunteers, money, gifts. We are in the Angel Tree season. We are in our kettle season. As a matter of fact, today is our Angel Tree kickoff at Wolf Chase Galleria. We're having our kettle kickoff at the Kroger store on Kirby
And as
Poplar.
we tape this, so we've taped this before Thanksgiving for people watching this right after Thanksgiving.
So our kickoff is on Friday,
Okay.
February, I'm sorry.
Well, I've thrown you off with the time warp here, so.
November the 22nd.
Okay.
And we will be at the Wolf Chase for our Angel Tree kickoff at 12 noon.
Yeah.
And at 4 p.m. we will be at the Kroger on Kirby and Poplar. We need volunteers for bell ringers. We need volunteers to work in our distribution site for our Angel Tree program. We need volunteers for our distribution site.
And I'll say just a personal note on the Angel Tree. We've done that, kids, and we've done that for years, and it is one of their favorite things now because they love to go get the names and get what the children have requested, and they go off and they love shopping. And I have teenagers now, but they love going and buying toys and in the toy section. So it's really it's a wonderful thing to do. So I'll just mention that as a personal.
Well, we
note.
appreciate that.
Yeah, well, then I don't mean. I just would advocate that with kids, it really does give them this great other kind of out of their own self perspective on, so Christmas morning, we kind of always try to remember that to mention these kids that we gave to and try to picture them, opening the presents that we picked out for them. So,
Thank you.
Bill, question.
There's been so much of an emphasis in recent years on rapid rehousing. Talk about the importance of that.
Well, it's as Barbara mentioned that once a family is homeless, it's a much harder situation for a family to get out of. So the idea of rapid rehousing is to take a family that is in danger of being homeless and try to keep them in an apartment with starting off with some rent assistance. But so that they, in a neighborhood where their children are in school, where the family life is not so disrupted. I think Barbara would agree with me, families that program can really assist are families that have things pretty more together than maybe a lot of the families that Barbara works with in shelter that she mentioned need more assistance. But it is still really important because a lot of what we do is to try to have that safety net. I feel like we're trying to prevent people from falling into the level where they really need so much assistance. So it's a really important program for the city.
The statistics show that families who have somewhere to live are better able to navigate through the system. They won't fall through the cracks. And the services that they need, they are better able to ascertain those services if they have a roof over their heads. And so to be rapidly rehoused is where you need to go. Many of our families here in Memphis cannot be rapidly rehoused, but there are those who have a good work history. They're employed, they have enough income to pay rent, they have a good credit history, a good rental credit history, and they're able to obtain housing much quicker than those who have no income. And so those are the people that are targeted. Once they come into the central intake, an assessment is done, and they're able to determine what the best fit for that family is.
Estella, you talked about SNAP and the cut that it took just recently, those particular benefits. That's widened the gap. You talked to Eric earlier about the food bank as a supplement, not as emergency services.
And there's still some emergency services where someone has been laid off or for health reasons, but realizing that we're providing a supplement, this year we launched a senior feeding program that focuses on seniors, where we're providing nutritious boxes for seniors. We had dietitians to look at what they needed to have a healthy diet. So we have volunteers that pack those boxes, and our partner agencies can only distribute those boxes to seniors. So that's a supplement, to make sure that they're getting protein and that fresh produce. With the SNAP cuts, we're seeing more people who qualify for government assistance coming to us sooner. Usually you would see them close to the end of the month because the benefits that they received were running out. But now they're coming sooner to our partner agencies. And so that puts a strain on us and requires us to have more resources because, as I said earlier, we've got 30 to 40% of the people who really don't qualify that we've been serving on a regular basis for the past 2 years with the economy because they're working, they make slightly too much money to qualify for any type of assistance. So that increases the number of people who have a need. And if they don't have to worry about the food, then they can take those dollars and apply it elsewhere. And it's really difficult. It's difficult for us to meet the need, and we hate to see our partner agencies decrease the amount of food that they have been giving to families in order to stretch it out. We hate to see that people are being turned away because they've run out of food at our partner agencies, and we're seeing our agencies come back more frequently for food. Those who were only serving households maybe once a month, who were open once a month, they're opening more now because the need's greater.
And I'll go to you. Have you seen cuts in funding? I mean, from federal, state, local. I mean, talk about that.
Yes.
Yes.
The sequestration affected many of our senior programs. Those programs are funded through the Older Americans Act, so Meals on Wheels, our Senior Companion Program. We have a transit program that takes seniors to the doctor or other appointments, and those were all significantly cut by the sequestration.
Salvation Army, how much?
The same thing. I mean, every funder that we have has cut the funding, and so we're just trying to find new revenue streams, asking for donations from the public, and so it's kind of tough.
Yeah. You talked earlier about, just a minute and a half left, you talked earlier about kids getting free and reduced lunch, breakfast, lunch. And in some schools now, are dinners, isn't it going to
Yes,
3 meals?
they're
when
going
you,
to
when you
dinners.
hear people, say, well, it's just creating, I'm going to go ugly for a second. When you hear people saying, that just creates this cultural dependency, what would you say back to them?
They're crazy. It's as simple as that. If you look at the statistics, children who are hungry can't learn. They don't develop well cognitively. And so if we want to make sure that we are producing a healthy community, then we need to take steps. We have a backpack program where children who receive those free or reduced lunches, we want to make sure that they have something to eat over the weekend. And we send these children home with a backpack filled with 6 nutritious meals. And we even have to consider that there may not be utilities at home. So the food that we provide is food that the children can eat straight out of the can without having to heat, or it's fully cooked. So we want to make sure that children are able to be healthy and learn.
All right. Well, thank you all. I assume on your the websites for various organizations, people can find other ways to donate, to give time. Thank you for joining us. Join us again next week. Good night.